Hello, everyone, and welcome back to God of War. We're still on our way to the Elf Temple to do thingies. So, Atreus finally asked the question: how the hell are these shopkeepers getting around? They're fantasy dwarves; they can go wherever they want.
Of course.
I'm sorry, I don't speak whatever language it is you're speaking.
Okay, I play too many platformers when my first thought was, oh yeah, we can wall jump to get across there.
Triangle jump, yeah.
That just reminds me of when Prince of Persia was good. God, 2008 was a disappointing game. I mean, I liked it well enough at the time, but God, is it monotonous.
Prince of Persia's have they made sense?
Not. I think they did like a mobile thing after 2008, but not since.
After 2008, they made Forgotten Sands, which is technically two games, because the Wii version was a completely different game from the next-gen version, with a completely different story and completely different mechanics. Both of them are technically good Prince of Persia games. So I wouldn't say that the series ended on a bad note. I would just say that like not enough people were on board with the series at that point to really care. But like Forgotten Sands is literally just Sands of Time 2.0. It was the Sands of Time remake before the Sands of Time remake.
Which still hasn't come out.
Which still hasn't come out, yeah. The Sands of Time remake is honestly probably going to feel a bit weak compared to the Forgotten Sands, unless they seriously redesign it. I think Forgotten Sands was heavily intended to tie in with the Prince of Persia movie that was coming out around that time. So it was very Warrior Within in its visual styling, because that was the costume that they decided to use for that movie.
And I know that there's a lot of like opinions people have about games 2 and 3 in the Sands of Time trilogy.
Yeah. It's definitely an uneven series, like, but also very interesting in its way. I guess part of the reason that people don't talk about it much nowadays is because it's also an inherently not very replayable series.
It's extremely linear, and there's not a lot to do beyond run through your obstacle courses.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the way the gameplay is designed. It's not, you can't even squeeze that much out of it in terms of like raw skill. Like once you've done it correctly once, that's the way you're going to be doing it every other time you play the game.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily. If what you're doing is fun, I never really minded replaying linear games. Like, I always enjoyed replaying, like, Paper Mario, for example, is not a inherently super replayable game. I mean, I guess you can do different layouts with badges and stuff, but growing up, I never did that. I always played it the same way every time.
But, like, even in Paper Mario, when you go back to replay that game, you're probably not exploring things in exactly the same way that you did the first time, or the second time, or the third time, even. You're probably talking to different NPCs in different orders, whatever just catches your interest at that given point. Even if it is a basic RPG, it still has that degree of flexibility to the play experience. A more linear, climby platformer like Prince of Persia doesn't really have that. The only thing that's in front of you at any given time is the obstacle course that you are trying to navigate, and in Prince of Persia's gameplay style, there's only one way to navigate that obstacle course. So it's a very one-and-done kind of game. It's ironically like an interactive movie in a sense. It's like every part of Prince of Persia is this climbing section right here. You know, it's a bit like that. In that sense, by modern standards, the 3D Prince of Persia's kind of feel like just a concentrated dose of one aspect of what we get in every game that we get these days. Like, there's plenty of Prince of Persia style platforming in a bunch of other games, but other games made nowadays also have a lot more layered on top of that. Which, to be fair, Warrior Within kind of tried to do. It just didn't do it very well.
But he didn't even defend himself.
We make ours.
And, like, even Forgotten Sands kind of tried to, you know, lay on some additional complexity in that respect. with some more intense timing challenges in the platforming and a theoretically more complex combat system, it just, like, didn't quite manage to do everything it was trying to do with those aspects. I'm probably selling Forgotten Sands really short. Forgotten Sands did some really good things. Like, you could freeze waterfalls and wall jump up the waterfalls like you're fucking Super Mario. Like, it was a really fun game while I was playing it. It's just, you know, it still had that one-and-done feeling to it.
Okay.
2008 was trying to remedy that by becoming more non-linear. It just did its non-linear in a really monotonous way, where you could go through any of the areas in any order you wanted, so their base design had to be pretty easy, you know? And the only way it upped the challenge as you went through the areas was that in whatever area you didn't go through first, what would happen is there were these dark, slimy tentacles of darkiness that spouted out of the walls and added some additional timing challenges to the wall jumping puzzles or whatever. But it was still fundamentally a level that you could have gone through first and was designed to be your first level just in case it happened to be your first level, you know? So, as interesting as the game was and as pretty as it was, it fell flat in a lot of areas. And that's a shame, because I liked where the story was going. And I liked the partner mechanic. And, you know, I didn't even mind so much that you technically couldn't die in that game, because, you know, failing a jumping puzzle and being brought back to the last safe space by your partner instead of dying was really just dying without the loading screen, you know? So,
I always appreciate that
yeah.
in games, where it's just like, if they expect you to die a lot, then making it slow is annoying, for sure.
Tekken 6.
Oh, yeah, Tekken 6 had like a big story mode that was a pain in the ass, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kind of did. But, like, Tekken 6's load times were awful because it was an early PS3 game. And,
Oh, like, even, like, between rounds and stuff like that?
Even between rounds, yeah. Like, it didn't have the courtesy to do what some more recent fighting games do and just keep everything loaded. No, it had to reload the entire fight every fucking time.
Yeah, like, I know that, like, if you're playing Tekken 7, you always have to, like, if you can redo the same fight, like, do a rematch right on that same stage, and it happens right away, which is really convenient.
If you had to do that in Tekken 6, it would fade to black, go through the character introduction screen and all the loading screens at exactly the same slow pace that it did the first time through. No loading optimization whatsoever. Really annoying. But ultimately, I guess it just comes down to Prince of Persia never really mixing up its formula enough to avoid franchise fatigue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's one of those franchises, like, you need maybe, like, one of them a generation, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, even with Assassin's Creed, like, there was enough going on between games to mix things up. And the differences between, like, Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2 were a huge leap. And even when the single-player gameplay started to stagnate, they introduced multiplayer, which was actually pretty good. You know? So there was more being piled on from game to game, even if it wasn't happening as quickly as some people would like.
I mean,
Prince of Persia, it never really managed that. The changes it tried to make always ended up falling a bit flat because they didn't quite fit the style.
Yeah.
And
it's just weird to me what ends up suffering franchise fatigue and what doesn't. Or, I guess more accurately, what victims of franchise fatigue end up surviving and which ones don't. Like,
yeah.
Both games are made by Ubisoft. Like, people were sick of Assassin's Creed for years and years and years because they made the same game every year for 15 years. But they still kept on making them. But Prince of Persia, they stopped, you know.
saying that they made the same game every time is underselling it quite a bit.
It is, yeah, but you know.
Yeah, they do add enough from game to game to mix things up fairly substantially, just not that substantially. And then, you know, eventually they did do like a partial genre shift into more open world RPG mechanics,
Well,
which was
with Odyssey,
you know,
you're talking about Odyssey,
with Odyssey and Valhalla.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we're two
that's-
games into that series now.
Yeah, that's the thing is just like those games did revitalize interest, but the 5 games like before that, I feel like people did not care at all.
Well, part of the reason for that is that it wasn't just pure franchise fatigue. Although that was partially it. They did have multiple games coming out in the same year at one point, which got a little ridiculous. But like they also had stuff like, which game was it that was absurdly glitchy? Unity, I think.
The French one, whatever that one was.
Yeah, and you know that's something that's not so easy to recover from, as Sonic the Hedgehog could attest. So, when you pile that on top of the symptoms of franchise fatigue, it led to the series being in a position where even the creators had to recognize that they needed a change.
Yeah. Ironically enough, Sonic never really got to the point where it could experience franchise fatigue because they kept changing things every 10 seconds. You never could get...
Yeah, kind of.
Nothing ever stuck around long enough for us to get sick of it.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, we did get a little sick of the boost formula because it was both handheld and mainline games for a long time.
I feel like Sonic Rush and the...
Well, you had the 3
Generations.
Rush. You had the 3 Rush games because Colors DS is just a Rush game.
Yeah.
You had Unleashed, you had Colors, and you had Generations, all roughly around the same time.
I like this.
Yeah, but those,
fucking.
ironically, were
I like
like
this-
the more well-received games in general. But
Sure,
I
but
like this. I like this hilariously narrow passage that these enemies are coming at you as, because like throwing the axe would just mow down enemies by the hundreds here. This is the most ridiculously like this part of the game is comically slanted in Kratos' favor.
I think that that's on purpose, honestly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Like this is him taking out his rage after the elves like almost killed his son. So yeah, this is pure catharsis. This sequence, I'm pretty sure.
we're also wrecking all their shit.
Yeah. You know, sometimes a particular segment of a game being absurdly easy can itself be a narrative tool.
Also, it's just fun because this game, I think beating up a lot of enemies was a big God of War classic kind of thing, and you know, there hasn't been a lot of chances to do that kind of thing yet, which is interesting. So it's like they wanted to have some of that in the game proper, I think.
Kind of a way of transitioning back into Kratos' old headspace.
Yeah.
Considering that, like, eventually we're going to get his old weapons back. Story-wise, anyway. You can see them on his back already. But,
I hear her. I told you I heard her. Do you think she's in there?
She's dead, boy.
When you open the fridge in the dark at 2 a.m., ow.
Yeah. Hello, light.
The bloom textures, boy. Look at them.
It's like being in a J.J. Abrams movie.
Stay here.
But I want to go.
Only use it as a last resort.
And my axe.
So wait, so you're giving him the axe while he
I'm
goes
letting you
through?
hold my axe.
Yes.
I'm letting you... Okay, that was funny.
It's not a gift.
Still.
So you have to fill the key with a light to do things. And the light's kind of awkward.
You can't just, like, put it in.
No.
Oh, here it is! They knew what we wanted when we were playing God of War. Okay.
mashing the circle button?
Yeah, it can't be a God of War game without that.
Well, you've been
Come
doing
on.
that throughout this entire game, so.
What is this?
Oh no. I'm in a black and white movie.
Faye?
Oh no, it's a dramatic flashback, flash dream flash thing.
have to come back.
Flashy. Well, it is flashy. It's definitely flashing at me.
Along with him.
Atreus! Falcor.
Kratos!
Atreus!
Kratos.
For some reason, the flashbacks that are occurring in my head are all to Mass Effect 3 for some reason. Those stupid forest sequences where you had to chase that ghost kid. I love Mass Effect 3. I do. It's a good game, but it has problems. It has big problems that never leave you alone.
Doesn't seem to want to. I'm strong. I'm smart. I'm not what he thinks I am.
One day we'll get to that game, probably.
Someday.
When
You
we're all
know,
like
5 years
fucking
from now, maybe.
45 years old, we're finally getting to Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, but without the moon buggy, can we even call it a Mass Effect game?
Absolutely.
But the moon buggy's the best part. At least on this channel it is.
Except, I don't mean that. You know I love him.
Family
Aww. It's heartfelt almost.
Kratos, I think you forgot your climbing gear on purpose. I'm the only one on this channel who's played Tomb Raider Legend, aren't I?
I know you're others.
I was gonna say you're the only one here who's played Tomb Raider, period, but that's strictly untrue.
Well, I know, like, Ryan and John, at least, have probably at least played the old school ones, even if
The
they've
old
never
ones,
beaten
yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, like, Tomb Raider Legend, Anniversary, and Underworlds tends to go underappreciated overall.
Well, what's with
Just
the
'cause
Oscar
this-
bait music?
What have you done? Why did you do that?
I saved you! You were trapped in there! I waited and I waited, but you wouldn't come out!
Kratos, I was in there for 5 seconds.
Boy, I was gone
Except not
only-
really.
Oh, boy.
Moments.
No! You've been gone a long, long time!
So how long was he gone? Do we like
We're
know?
not we're not sure.
Why don't you care?
Oh no, he coughed. He did the cough. Oh no.
That's impossible.
Well, we'll get into that later.
We should go before they come back.
I don't know, boy. You seem to be doing a pretty good job of handling them.
See the axe embedded in one of the enemies there?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Atreus is surprisingly competent.